movie this past week, so. It's available, and it's through the Denton Public Library. Hoopla. Hoopla.
It's separate.
It is, yes, it's not the Cloud Library, but it's the Hoopla app, and it works with our library membership, and it's available, and it's about an hour and a half, and it wasn't bad, but it helped me to start visualizing it a lot more. So next comment or question? Here, I'm gonna pass this.
I think it'll help everybody.
I'm a skim reader a little bit, but when I was reading and suddenly some very strange expletives wound up on the page, I had to back up and try and figure out who was calling who what, and it was in a friendly banter sort of way, not meant to be taken literally, but meant to be taken in the spirit that it was said. But when you read it on the page, it's very startling.
And talking about reading things on the page, when I was researching her life, I found an interview where she said she does not write the poems that are accredited to Ruth in the book, that she asks other Canadian authors to write the poetry, and including Margaret Atwood has written some of them, and then she gets their permission. Louise Penny herself has never written any of Ruth Zardo's poetry.
One of
the things that, just following up on Joan's earlier comment about Nicole, there's people like that in every book, and I picked up this book on the way out. I meant to get Still Life, and they were next to each other. This is her latest one, The Madness of Crowds. And there's some people in there you're just going to hate, especially old people are going to hate. You really don't like it.
One of my favorite parts of her books, and she may not have done it as much in Still Life, but she certainly does it throughout, is when she describes what everyone's eating at the bistro, and it all sounds so wonderful and yummy and warming when you're in freezing Canadian weather. I love her descriptions of the food that Gabri and Olivier make at the bistro. Yes.
Yes.
I've read several of the books, and I just wanted to endorse the point that's been made a couple of times that in addition to good plots, the beauty of the books and the writing is in the character development and the study of what they're feeling, why they're feeling it, how they react to things. That richness makes the books that much better.
How many of you think that Jane knew that Ben had killed Timur when she did the drawing, the Fair Day painting?
Yes. Go ahead. Because she gave a clue, something about, I can't recall what it was, but something about, did you notice this, or do you remember this, Ben, or?
Because you're supposed to be on.
Yeah, she
No,
looks at
yes,
him,
yes.
and when she talks about it at that party that they have.
Yes.
But I didn't pick up on, I read this book 3 times now. I read it first when it first came out. I couldn't remember it because I've read all her other books. And so then I went back and read it again and just sort of went through it fast. And then I read it last week after I read some of the questions that Louise Penny suggests you ask at book discussions. And I realized, and then I thought, I'm glad I didn't read these questions before I read the book. But when I read it this time, I started paying attention to little clues like that. And because when I just read it, I really didn't realize who had who had done the murder. Did the rest of you, did you pick up on those little clues that are hidden?
I kind of like to follow up on the comment over there. I think the reason these books are good and mystery books that are written in a series, the ones that are very successful because the characters are the most important part, not the plot. And I think what makes Penny really good is that, again, coming back to food, you know, you see these people who are in love with food, which relates to all of us typically. You see people sitting in chairs that they like. They sit in places they like. They have interactions with certain people that they like. And so, and it's really important in these mystery books to have a whole sense of a community or a situation. And Penny is really quite good at it. She's not the only author that does this for books in a series. I mean, we all read Christie's Poirot and Miss Marple and so on. And Crombie is another writer who has about 19 or 20 books in a series. And the reason you keep coming back to them is not because of the murder or the event that predicates the action. It is because these are characters who feel quite real to you, because all of the elements of the characters are mentioned. Their clothing, their food, their relationships, their favorite chair, whatever it may be. And I think that's one of the things that we like about murder mysteries that are written in series.
Yeah, just to support the Donna's comment, you know, like I said earlier, I spent a lot of time in Montreal doing business in that area. And one time, after I got familiar with the area, I stayed in a B&B kind of a place. It was a small hotel, but a small hotel might be 30, 40 people if it hold. And, you know, of course, being an American, I had my roll-on luggage, and, you know, they asked me if I wanted to stay on the top floor, which was the fourth floor. I said, sure. They didn't have an elevator. So I got to drag my luggage all the way up there to the fourth floor, which was convenient. And then it turned out that that hotel, which the bistro always makes me think about it, that hotel was where I stayed when I got stuck in Montreal for a week one time, when they had big snowstorm and big power loss. And so some of these foods are what we had at that little, you know, small hotel. We had, you know, really good food, no elevator. You know, of course, we had no power, but they cooked. Were able to cook. Had a generator so they could fix some things. And just reading about some of the foods that they had there just reminded me of that time when I was stuck there in you know, suburban Montreal for a week in a snowstorm. And they don't clear the roads nearly as fast as they do in Washington.
So I have a question for you. Gamache says that the four sayings lead to wisdom. I was wrong, I'm sorry, I don't know, and I need help. Louise Penny says, do you think these ideas are important in everyday life? Do you use them in your own life? Does anybody want to comment on that? Yes.
I think that she said or somewhere earlier in the reference said that Gamache's intention was to listen, but clearly ask questions or make statements so that people would reveal themselves. And I think those four statements, which are statements about yourself, actually make other people reveal themselves. So I know, and I've experienced that personally.
I also think that our humanity in general, our egos get in the way. And to be able to say, I'm sorry, I don't know, and those four phrases require something of everybody to think about and use them.
I think a lot of us find it very hard to say, I need help.
Yes.
You know, you just suffer through things, and you would have been so much better off just had you said that and admitted it. Yes.
I'm not a particular fond of Louise Penny. I read 3 of her books now, I guess. It'll probably be the last one I'm reading now. But the first book in particular, one of the irritants was she used a lot of French phrases. A lot, I think more than was necessary. Now, the later book, she doesn't do that. There's 1 and 2 words used. I know Quebec is a French-speaking country, but still, if she intended it to be read by other people, I don't know if that was all necessary. Any of the others feel that way, or is that just kind of being picky?
On her website, she has a place where you can click in and she pronounces the names of her characters, which I had been sort of mispronouncing in my head for some years. And then she pronounces all the French words and says what they mean. And she said one of her assistants suggested she do that. And she said, well, that's fine, you know, they're just a few. And she said when this assistant gave her the list, she was shocked at how many French words she had used. And so I think she was unaware of it because she's bilingual and the people that she associates with in Canada are bilingual. And she was really unaware that she had sprinkled so much French through. And I think in future books she was less, you know, she thought about that more after she was given this long list of French words.
If I may, just one more item I discovered in future books. I don't think this is in Still Life, but one of the other books she mentioned that the town of 3 Pines became real popular. First of all, it's only, I guess, a few miles or a number of kilometers from the U.S. border.
Right.
And that was the time that a lot of people were evading the draft. Windsor sort of irritated me, you know, especially being a veteran. It just irritated me. And then when I think about some of these characters, I wonder, was he one of the people that evaded the draft? Kind of picky, but.
I think the statements that we're talking about are important too in life. And I spent 25 years as a nurse, and one of the positions I had was working in staff development and helping orient new young nurses. Now, we want our nurses to know what they're doing, but if they don't know, we want them to be able to say, I don't know, I need help. You know, so that was one thing we watched for in these young nurses, to make sure they wouldn't pretend to know more than they did. One of the phrases or sentences that I appreciated in the book was in relation to talking about Jane, who gets killed. People kept saying what a nice person she was, what a wonderful person she was. Everybody liked Jane. She wasn't pretty, but she was nice. And Gamage says, when someone's had a good life, we think they should have a good death. And so when a murder happens to them, that's very disconcerting. And I thought that was an interesting point.
Very.
Just a point on the French phrases, etc. I am kind of a traditional guy, but in recent years I've started to read ebooks, and I've read several of these books as ebooks. And you can look up what the French phrases mean when you're on one of those ebook apps, and that's a nice feature. In spite of being a traditionalist, it's not a bad thing.
Any other questions?
I thought I had marked in my book, I thought I put little stickers on. I thought I had put one in where it says about Ruth and how she's probably never known happiness and she resents other people's happiness and the bitterness, her bitterness comes through so strongly. And she's just, I found her such a sad character. She may be very successful as a poet, but she was so lucky to have found these people in Three Pines who accept her, because she really doesn't enrich their lives.
You don't think she enriches their lives? I think she is. I think she's a challenge to them in a lot of ways, John. Don't you? I think she's a challenge. I can hear that, believe me, you can hear me.
I know sometimes.
I disagree. I think that Joan does enrich their lives always because she is a challenge to them. She forces them to deal with a contrary personality, and they do so in amazingly kind sort of ways. And a lot of things they do and accept about her. And I think in that respect, I think she makes them better, or at least allows them to use their humanity in a way that they would not do if she were just a Jane or somebody else like that. So I think for this character who gets better and better as the books go on, I think, but she is the symbol of the tolerance that's in that community, the acceptance of the differences. I mean, here we have two gay guys running a bistro. We've got a black psychologist, which can't be that common in Quebec. You have all these people gathered together in this small community where they have to interact. And Ruth is off the wall, foul-mouthed woman. So it is a part of how they develop and express their humanity. I think that they deal with her in a way. So I say that she gives them benefit because she allows them to be kind to someone who would be hard to be kind to. She allows them to accept someone they probably wouldn't ever really want to deal with. And so I think that, to me, that makes her a very important character in the book. It helps to advance our sense of their humanity. It helps us to advance our sense of who these individuals are. And I think that's really important, just in the moving of the book forward, if nothing else.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. She reminded me of Weezer in Still Magnolias. I mean, she's just unique. Contrary, but unique.
But I think that's part of the value of a small town, especially this collection of small town. Because they accept the uniqueness and things like they talk about when she's in charge of the fire, or you're not going to do what she says to do, and they kind of say it in a way, but it's an acceptance and it's okay, this is her character, this is the way they are, and she's just a part of it because they're part of the fabric of the village, I believe.
I thought it'd be interesting they wouldn't use or didn't suspect her because she would have lost all of her friends and she never found any more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Canada prides itself on its mosaic population, rather than the United States where we want a melting pot, or at least we used to. So what's been said in here just kind of fortifies that for me. Just a thought.
Good thought. Good thought. I think it's time to adjourn to the boardroom and carry on the way.
I think I see a hand up here.
I believe on CBS Sunday Morning 2 weeks ago, that Louise Penny and Hillary Clinton were on for an interview. And yes, they're writing a book together, and having seen what Louise Penny was like in an informal, happy, she was relaxed and laughing and seemed like a very interesting person. It was interesting. I wish the segment had been longer.
I agree. And the book that she wrote is now with Hillary has been released.
Oh, okay.
I'm a brand new member, so I'd like to hear how this whole operation works. I hear that in January you get a list of the books, and is it one every month, one every 2 months, what?
Okay, for Friends of the Library's book discussions, they are for a year. It will be in February next, May, that we're gonna skip the summer, because it's hard, people are gone so much in the summer. So then I believe we come back September and November. So it's pretty much, late winter, spring, early fall, late fall.
So this all quiet on this.
All Quiet on the Western Front will be, I think, February 12th, but don't hold me to the date. But I know it's February. And, it is a classic. So it will not be hard to find copies of it in bookstores as well as the public libraries. In addition, the Friends of the Library will be buying 2 or 3 books, I imagine, just to have on hand for those people. And we'll probably put them out very soon so that people can start reading them personally. Once I got the list, I got a jump on everybody and immediately checked it out on my iPad.
So the books are announced on the Ropes and Rants activities, or? how-
There will be an article, Diane, raising her hand right here, writes our articles on a monthly basis for the Pioneer Press here at Robeson, and we will announce them in, let's see, it'll come out in the December, I believe, edition of the Pioneer Press, and we are waiting, hopefully by then we'll know exactly what dates and have the presenters and what order we're doing them in. But for the sake of being able to tell y'all today, we just went ahead and arbitrarily went with All Quiet on the Western Front, and it's by Remark with a few, I think. Yeah, it's not like I heard a remark, but and it's not terribly long either, because I've almost finished it.
We also have a website, robesonlibrary.org, and upcoming events are listed under it. There's an event section, and eventually all the 4 of the 2022 next year 2022 book discussions will be listed on there. So you can always check there also.
I will say this, we tried to get a wide selection. And so the members that I mentioned earlier, there are 6 people on this book discussion committee. They came together and they chose 4 genres, if you will, to choose from. And help me, LaDonna.
Yeah, well, we had quite a long list. We actually started out, everybody in the committee originally proposed a list of books. We sit around each other, and then we got together and we talked about, we looked at the past history of the Friends of the Library. Linda was very kind to send us information, and so we looked to see what books we've done and what the attendance was. We didn't want to pick out one that was going to be a dud, so we wanted to make sure we avoided that. So in the process of doing that, we settled on about 4 categories. We knew we needed at least one nonfiction, because not everybody loves novels. And there are some really great pieces of nonfiction that we have read that have really been good, and we've talked about them in discussions. We also thought we might want to do a Texas book, meaning a book about Texas. It could be a novel, it could be nonfiction. It just needed about Texas, because not everybody who's here grew up in Texas. I did not. Probably, there's only maybe a handful who grew up in this area for sure.
This group grew up in Texas.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I don't know if you grew up in this part of Texas or not. So the bottom line, so we decided we needed a Texas book, just kind of a way to help people who are new to this area to kind of get a feel for it. So we did that. Then we looked at what I call classic and near classic books. Because obviously part of the problem, we don't want to, most of us don't read true classic books anymore. We did that when we were in college, we did it when we were in high school, or we gave it up because it was just too damn hard, whatever the reason for it. But we know that we still need to respect the classics. And so we looked at what we call classic or near classic books. And Remark's book, All Quiet on the Western Front, is considered the best anti-war novel ever written. So it was written after World War I. So it has, and it's also written by a German author. So it has a lot of characteristics. So we consider that one of the near classics. And then we also did a whole list of other books by other, what we would absolutely consider classic writers, and we put that on our list as well. And then we thought we had to do something people really want to read, so we picked out a section called contemporary novels or contemporary works. And so we have a category of each of them. And if you look at the ones we selected, we have books that are set in before the 20th century, in the 1800s, 1870 actually. We have some set in 1954, we have some set in the 1920s. And we think what the other one was set in the 1860s also. So we have a whole range of books about different time frames because we want to catch as many people's attention as we can. And I think one of the purposes, and I think Joan made this so clear in our meeting, is that we want people to go to the library. This is not about discussing them here. It's about getting you over to the library to see what kind of cool things are in our library. And so we want to make sure we appeal to as broad a range of people as we could. And we spent an hour talking about and categories of sort, and we narrowed the list down again to about 20 books, I think. And we went off and thought about them and got back together and came up with a list. Actually, we actually put the list of 4 books we recommended and 3 alternates in case we didn't hit the mark. And they were from that list they were chosen. So, and it was just and we also looked at some of the books that were recommended by other people who had sent in notes saying, "This is a great book, we ought to read this, or talk about this." And some of those did not make the cut, some of them did. But we did make that effort to involve more people. And I'm sure next year when they do this same group, they'll ask for other people to do this, form this committee and do the work.
Thank you.
Just kind of following up on that, I mean, like Donna said, we want to get people in the library. And we used to have these book discussions in the library. In the first year, I guess toward the end of the year, we were having 70, 80 people. So it was a good turnout, a really good turnout. And then when the pandemic came, we went and did some of them on Zoom. We did a couple on Zoom. I forgot, I know we did one on Da Vinci on Zoom. And now we're trying to get back into doing it in person. The AGOA wouldn't let us do it in the library, so we had to do it over here. So we can get appropriate distance.
Well, we're going to try to maybe move back to the library. I have a feeling as we continue to grow, we will grow out of the library again. And probably, my guess is by next fall, we will be for sure back here because we'll need the space. But if any of you are interested in serving on the committee going forward, we'll be looking for new people for the book discussion committee probably around May, June, because if you're not already a member of Friends of the Library, we switch our officers in July, and the person who will be stepping up as chair next year is out of the country right now, but her name is Jane Schultz, no relation to me, which is strange, but Jane will be, putting on, there will actually be, hopefully, 3 that are on the committee this year will stick around for another year, and we'll bring 3 more new people on, so that we always have new ideas, new blood, if you will, and new discussions to look forward to. So, any other questions about still life and if you're interested in being on a panel, by all means let us know. Of course, I guess you want to know what the books are, so we'll have to wait. Now, if you already are a big fan of All Quiet on the Western Front, we would love to know if you're interested in serving on the panel. The panel usually is 3 to 4 people. We don't need too many people, but we would love some new people to step up and present. And